Hi, I'm Izzy and I work as a fire lookout here in northern Alberta with my dog Dingo. And today we're going to be up here in the cupola going over how I spot and report potential wildfires. First part of spotting a smoke is doing scans. Now, there's really formal scans and just like supplementary scans. Formal scans is literally standing in front of a window and doing our scanning motion with our eyes, and then moving on and doing it at the next window, the next window, the next one. I do those about like every 10-15 minutes, and in between those, we're basically doing supplementary scans, which is I'm doing something and I'm looking around kind of like this, just scanning everything, and that's pretty consistent and pretty constant, is doing those supplementary scans. Well, all of my smokes that I have found have been doing the supplementary scans. Smoke doesn't operate on like your time frame, it operates on its own. That's why it's really important we're kind of always scanning. I'll spot something that looks a little bit funky, and then I'm going to start to ask a whole bunch of questions and kind of go through a mental checklist. The first set of questions I'm going to ask myself is it actually something other than smoke that I'm seeing? So some examples of that can be pollen. Pollen isn't as common where I am. Water vapor can look like smoke, especially after it's rained. After thunderstorms, there's often water vapor. And the last one, road dust. If you're in an area where road dust is very common, which I am, road dust can play tricks on you and is the one that I fall victim to the most, of looking at it being like, are you road dust or are you something else? If we've run through that list and we're like, no, I'm pretty confident that's a smoke, then we move on. Is it actually a wildfire, or if it's a smoke that is meant to be there? Is it a permitted fire? So things like brush piles, campfires, smoke houses. Is it a smokestack or industry? In my area, this is not very common. Permitted fires, though, can be canceled. Fire bans are going on, permitted fires are out. If it's too windy, like today, winds are over the 12-kilometer-an-hour limit. So permitted fires are out. If it's outside of their permitted time, like it expired yesterday, it's out and we're going to report it. Another question we might have is it an already active wildfire that has been reported? If so, we also take it out. With our knowledge of the land and all of those things, we can kind of make decisions about, is it a smoke right away or is it potentially one of those? Regardless of what it is, though, this is when I'll bring in the fire finder. And for an example, let's say I have a smoke outside of this window and I think that it is in the area of a permit. I might be wrong, but I might be right. So we're going to grab our sight bearing ring, come down here and look through this, which is the rear sight. Up here is the front sight with the crosshairs. We're going to look through the rear sight. We're lining up the crosshairs with that smoke. Now what that has done is now gotten a bearing. Back here is where we're going to read our bearing. And every one of those longer lines, like that one and that one, are 1 degree, and the little tiny lines in between those, like those, are 30 minutes. So there's 60 minutes in a degree, and so these big ones are the 1 degree, and these little ones are 30 minutes, and then these very, very long ones, here and here, and I guess here, are all 5 degrees. Instead of reading left to right, we read right to left, which is actually why this thing here, this metal bar, is to help prevent us from reading in the opposite direction. So we're going to count from right to left how many degrees we have. So we have 240, 241, 242, 243, 244, and 245. This line here, that's the one that's indicating what we're looking at, is pretty much perfectly in line with that 5. So our number, that is where we stop, and our number would be 245 degrees, and that is our bearing. Let's say it was slightly off, and it's kind of in the middle there. It's more in line with that 30, so that would be 245 degrees and 30 minutes if we were just doing a quick thing. But if you look close, you can see that it is off just slightly. Very tiny bit off, very tiny bit to the side. So what we do then with that is we're going to use our azimuth graduation to figure it out. And we're going to say that this one here, that this is 0, and this graduation goes all the way up to 30. And we're just going to count, and it's hard for you to see, so you're just going to have to trust me. We're going to find one of these lines that lines up perfectly with one of the lines down here. And then we're going to add that. The third line, so 1, 2, 3, is pretty much perfectly in line. And we're going to add that to our minutes. So instead of it being 2:45, 30 minutes, it's actually 245 degrees and 33 minutes, 33 minutes. And that is how we get our bearing. Now that we know our bearing, we can start to look at things like what permits are in that area. Is this actually in line with one of those permits? And we do that by using typically like our cross-shot map and LSDs. If we determine it's not in line with any permits, it's not in line with any permanent smokes, then we know basically for sure that it is going to be a fire. We have 5 minutes now from the point of deciding it is a smoke that needs to be reported to deciding that and actually reporting that to dispatch. This is when we're going to pull out our pre-smoke. Here is our pre-smoke, our detection message up close for you to have a look at. So this here is our lookout ID. So I would put what my tower is or what my tower's abbreviation is. Message number goes up by sequence. So this for me right now, let's just say it would be message number 4. Reported date and time is at the very end. So we're just going to hold off on that. Bearing, we know what our bearing is. It's that 245 degrees and 3 minutes. So already we know what our bearing is, and distance from lookout, looking back, I realized I didn't really touch on how to judge distances, but it's basically just looking around the land and knowing your area to be able to guess what those distances are, using different land features. Like for me, it's mainly hills as well as some like cell towers to be able to judge those distances, right? So let's just say it was 20K. And the last thing we're going to be able to fill out right now is going to be our discovered date and time. The time and the day that you decided it is actually a smoke and it's something worth reporting. So right now it is 2025. My printing isn't this bad, but I'm doing it through a camera. 05/12 at 1:18. But with that all being said, we're going to go forward and I'm going to throw it back to Past Dizzy to go over these along with you. I just want to say that you've been watching this smoke anywhere from a minute now to maybe even like 5 or 6 minutes trying to suss it out and figure out what is going on. So most of these things you probably will already know. But that being said, we're still going to go back and go over how you're going to figure those things out. Smoke type. Is the smoke scattered? So does it have multiple kind of like origin points? This would be more so in like lightning situations, when lightning has struck in multiple places really close to each other and created multiple starts. Intermittent, so it's a smoke that isn't constantly putting out of column. A light column, so light columns, we can typically see the horizon through them, and yeah, they're just lighter, they're not super thick, and you can see things typically through them. Heavy columns, so the opposite of light. Heavy columns are thick, you're not seeing anything through that, you're not being able to see the horizon at all, it's just a very thick column of smoke. The color of the smoke: light gray, medium gray, dark gray, black, or white. The next thing we're going to relay is base size. It is windy as heck. Welcome to my windy cupola. It's small, medium, large, very large, or is it not visible? Not visible is typically what happens the most. Most of the time, we're just not going to see the base of it because there will be trees blocking it, some sort of valley, a lake. There's typically something always blocking the base of a smoke, so we're going to go with not visible. So we're going to let them know if the smoke is drifting straight up, if it's drifting high, or is it drifting low, which is the one we hate. And this is what will make a fire spread a lot, is if smoke is drifting low. So now that we know how we characterize our smoke, we're going to finish off filling out our detection message. We're going to use this picture of a smoke. I'm going to put it up here. That is from a fire I reported a month ago. It was my first detection of the season, so it is no longer active. I'm going to make that clear. This is no longer active, but we're going to look at it and we're going to use this to fill out the last little bit of our detection message. So it is a light column, so we're going to check that off. It is medium gray. The base size is not visible, and it is drifting low. After we filled out everything and we've gathered all of our info, we get to radio dispatch and give them our detection message. So as an example, this is what it would look and sound like. We're not going to do it for real. My finger is not on the button. Look out to forestry with a detection message. We would wait for them for about 30 to 45 seconds to respond. If they didn't respond by then, I'm going to repeat it again. Look out to forestry on 241, and we wait again. By then, they're typically pretty responsive and are getting to you, and they'll basically say, look out to forestry, go ahead with your detection. And now we're going to read off our detection message. Look out. Message number 4 reported today's date at 1222, bearing 245 degrees, 33 minutes, distance 20 kilometers, smoke type light column, smoke color medium gray, base size not visible, condition drifting low. Discovered at today's date at 1218. Now, after sending our detection message, that doesn't mean that our job has stopped and we don't have to pay attention to that smoke anymore. Now we're going to monitor the smoke, and if it has any sort of changes, we're going to report that. So if it's changing from a medium gray to white, we're reporting that. It's drifting low, but now it's straight up, we're reporting that. Any changes that happen to the smoke, we're going to report them as they're happening. Now that we've sent out our detection message, other lookouts in our area most likely are scanning our channel as well. So they will have heard our detection message, and they might be able to see the smoke as well. So they're going to run through the same thing we did earlier with getting our bearing and all that. They're going to come over to their fire finder, move it around, line up the front crosshairs with the back sight, look through, line it up, and read off their bearing. And they're going to either call us over the radio to give us their cross bearing, or they're going to, more likely, they're going to text our work phone that cross bearing. This is when we get to use our cross shot map and fill out this section, our legal location. I'm not going to show you my actual cross shot map. And our lookout is right in the middle. And these are not accurate in bearings in any way. This is literally just to demonstrate that this line is our bearing. And we've estimated that our smoke is about 20 kilometers away. So let's say that's right here. But there is another lookout who, let's say, is over here. And that line is their bearing. Where our two lines intersect is going to be our updated, more accurate location. With that, we can now figure out what our LSD is, our legal location with our Alberta third party of survey. We rate it from smallest to biggest, but I find it easier to think of from biggest to smallest. Biggest is the meridians. Alberta has 3 meridians. I am west of the 5th, and west of the 5th by a good chunk, and I'm nowhere near the 6th meridian. All of my detections are going to be west of the 5th. The next part of that is our ranges. Ranges start at the meridian. They go up in sequence, kind of like everything else, with the smallest being 1 at the meridian and going all the way up to the next meridian. And they go right to left. Townships go from the bottom of the province up to the top, and then the next part is sections, where our range and township intersect. Those are divided into 36 squares, starting with the smallest one in the lower right corner, and it snakes up to the upper right corner to get 36 sections. Each section is then divided into a quarter section. They start at 1 in the lower right corner and go up to 16, but we kind of group them as 4. Upper right corner being the northeast corner, southeast corner, southwest, and northwest corner. So we're just going to pull a random LSD and a legal location and say that's it. Start with our legal subdivision, which let's say it's just northeast, section, 23. Township is going to be, let's say, 79. Range is 15, west of the 5th. Right as we gave that first detection message, dispatch will have been sending out a crew to come and locate our smoke and determine if it is a wildfire or not. Oftentimes this will either be with a helicopter or a ground crew. Once they've determined it is a fire, they might send additional resources to that fire. If it's small enough, sometimes it will just be the helicopter crew that's actioning it, or they'll put a bucket on the helicopter and dump buckets of water on it, essentially. Along with having some sort of ground crew to also assist with putting it out. If it seems like it's going to be turning into a bigger fire, or it already is a bigger fire, they'll send out bigger equipment like water bombing planes, as well as planes with fire retardant in them. On the ground, they'll have obviously quite a bit of ground crews fighting that fire, as well as if it's severe enough, they might even have some heavy equipment like diggers to dig up soil. What now? What do we do now that we've provided all of this information to dispatch? We continue to do what we've been doing. We continue to watch the smoke. report any changes to it, and continuing to scan the area if any other smokes pop up. The other day, I did have 2 smokes within 10 minutes of each other. Just because you've seen one smoke doesn't mean you're not going to see another one. At some point following our detection, we are going to get a result code. So a result code is just what was found. Sometimes result codes, you'll get them back and you'll find out that it was a smoke that is meant to be there, like it's a smokestack that you weren't aware of, or it's a permit that you weren't aware of. That happened to me quite a few times last year. Or it can be that nothing was found, or that they think you just saw road dust. Most of the time, what it's resulting in is with a wildfire number. So we'll get a wildfire number. Sometimes we'll get an explanation of what caused the wildfire. That being said, that is how we spot a smoke, report a smoke, and everything after. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight on what I do as a fire lookout. I know this video is quite long, but chances are all of this will have happened in about 2 to 5 minutes. And from the time we've reported it to them having people on scene, it really varies where you are, but it's pretty quick. So even though this video is long, the whole process actually goes by extremely fast. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I hope this gives a bit of an explanation of what I do, and we'll see what the next video is.